After centuries of alien dominion, humanity's legacy has all but faded into distant memory. Scattered across the galaxy, humans live as outcasts, huddled in small, isolated colonies, or enslaved in mining facilities, barely surviving on the edges of forgotten systems. Earth itself is only a legend, a ghostly whisper shared in quiet corners, its glory buried under layers of coalition propaganda and suppression. The ruling coalition, a vast, sprawling network of alien empires, took no chances when it subdued humanity long ago, ensuring that no trace of Earth's past power could inspire resistance. Jackson Kane, once a soldier in the coalition's infantry, now works as a mechanic on a desolate mining colony, scraping by with long hours and silent, bitter resentment. He still carries the scars of combat, a reminder of battles fought for his alien overlords, battles he never believed in. Though his body has adjusted to the harshness of the colony, his mind is restless. Jackson knows he's not alone in his anger. He sees it in the eyes of the other humans on the colony, the silent but defiant fire that never quite dies, no matter how brutally the coalition enforces its control. One evening, while scrounging through a scrap heap outside the colony's perimeter, Jackson stumbles upon something odd. A smooth, metallic object is partially buried in the sand, glinting faintly under the colony's flickering floodlights. Digging it out, he realizes he's holding a small device, heavy and marked with faint, familiar symbols. Symbols he hasn't seen since his early training days, symbols of Earth. He brushes off the dust, carefully turning it over in his hands, examining its worn edges. The object is an old Earth beacon, a relic from before the Coalition's purge. Fascinated and slightly apprehensive, Jackson hurries back to his cramped quarters, hiding the beacon beneath his worn-out bunk. He spends the night working in secret, patching together an improvised power source to reactivate the device. His hands tremble slightly, both from excitement and fear, as he presses the activation button. The beacon hums faintly, then blinks to life, displaying a garbled holographic message. Although most of the text is unreadable, a fragment stands out clearly, hinting at hidden caches of Earth's lost technology scattered across the galaxy, preserved in secret sites. The message cuts off abruptly, leaving Jackson staring at the flickering image in stunned silence. For the first time in years, a surge of hope floods through him. If the message is real, if these caches truly exist, they might hold the means for humanity to rise again. Jackson knows the risks. The Coalition would hunt down anyone attempting to recover these relics, seeing it as a direct threat to their rule, but he also knows that this discovery could change everything. Clutching the beacon tightly, he makes his decision. He won't be able to do it alone, but he senses that the time is right. There are others who feel the same restless anger, the same yearning for freedom. In the days that follow, Jackson moves carefully, quietly recruiting a small band of trusted allies. Miners, technicians, ex-soldiers, all humans who share a hunger for something beyond survival. Together, they swear a pact, promising to fight for the chance to reclaim humanity's lost heritage. The Coalition may have crushed Earth's past, but Jackson's discovery has kindled a fire. Jackson's newly assembled crew is a ragtag mix of ex-soldiers, engineers, and miners, each of them hardened by years of alien oppression. Driven by a faint hope of reclaiming humanity's legacy, they follow the ancient beacon's coordinates to a remote asteroid field far from prying Coalition patrols. This asteroid field, dense and treacherous, was rumored to hide remnants of humanity's once advanced military fleet. If the legends were true, then a piece of Earth's former strength lay hidden here, waiting to be reclaimed. Their ship, a battered freighter outfitted with makeshift defenses, drifts through the maze of rocks and debris, sensors probing cautiously. Jackson watches the scanners, tense and alert, while his crew, unfamiliar with combat outside of colony disputes, tries to mask their unease. Every creak of the hull, every blip on the radar, brings an edge of anticipation. Jackson knows they aren't trained soldiers anymore. They're survivors, fighting for a dream long buried, yet he also knows that determination alone won't be enough if they encounter coalition forces. Finally, after hours of slow, careful navigation, the beacon's signal grows stronger, leading them to a massive asteroid partially cracked open. Hidden within its shadows, they spot the outline of a dormant warship. Jackson's breath catches. It's one of Earth's early battleships, rumored to have vanished during the Coalition's purge. The sight of it, even battered and worn, sparks a sense of awe and pride among the crew. They dock the freighter to the battleship's side and enter cautiously. Dust hangs in the stale air, and the ship's corridors are dark and silent, frozen in time. As they explore, they discover control panels and machinery lined with old Earth insignias, symbols of a forgotten era when humanity held the strength to face even the mightiest alien fleets. Jackson's heart pounds as he moves through the ship, feeling an unspoken connection to the legacy of those who once fought for freedom. The control room is still partially operational, though most of the ship's systems are offline. Jackson's chief engineer, Lyra, quickly sets to work, bypassing the ship's aging security protocols and rerouting power to essential systems. The ancient screens flicker to life, and the ship begins to hum, its latent power slowly awakening. Weapon systems, shield generators, and tactical arrays spring back to functionality, one by one. It's far from fully operational, but the battleship still holds enough firepower to intimidate coalition patrols. Their triumph, however, is short-lived. Before they can take full control, warning lights flash across the console. A coalition scout ship has detected them. They barely have time to prepare before a transmission crackles through, demanding they surrender immediately. Jackson's crew is outmatched. The scouts' armaments are newer, more advanced, and backed by the full force of the Coalition's fleet. But Jackson's crew refuses to be cowed. Using the element of surprise, Jackson orders Lyra to divert the ship's remaining power to its weapons, calculating a risky maneuver to disorient the Coalition vessel. The battleship's weapons, though older, pack a devastating punch. In a quick exchange, Jackson's team fires the first shots, catching the scout off guard. Explosions ripple across the asteroid field, and in a desperate last maneuver, the Coalition ship retreats, broadcasting an alert as it vanishes into the distance. The crew celebrates, but the victory is bittersweet. They know Coalition reinforcements will arrive soon, and they have limited time to escape with the battleship. Nevertheless, as they navigate the warship away from the asteroid field, a newfound confidence courses through them. They have proven that humanity's forgotten technology is still potent, still formidable. This arsenal, this reclaimed piece of Earth's history, is a symbol of hope that they will carry back to their hidden allies. For the first time, Jackson sees the possibility of a future where humanity is not merely surviving but fighting to reclaim its lost glory. The battle at the asteroid field spreads through hidden human networks like wildfire, carried by hushed voices in backroom gatherings and encrypted transmissions. For the first time in generations, humans have not only defied the Coalition but have tasted victory. Word of Jackson Kane's reclaimed warship, an ancient relic of Earth's glory days, breathes new life into colonies that have long abandoned any notion of rebellion. As fragments of the story reach even the most remote settlements, a long-dormant spark of hope reignites among the scattered enclaves. Jackson and his crew return to their hidden base, a remote mining outpost in a dead star system, to assess their next moves. The warship they salvaged from the asteroid field, though still partially damaged, holds invaluable Earth technology, including powerful but long unused weapon systems and encrypted files detailing long-lost military protocols. Even a single functional battleship is enough to shift the balance of power, at least symbolically. To Jackson, it's more than a weapon. It's proof that humanity's past can be resurrected, that Earth's strength was never entirely erased. Yet their victory brings new dangers. Coalition patrols have intensified across human colonies, with raids and crackdowns sweeping through settlements suspected of harboring rebellious intent. Coalition enforcers now watch closely for any signs of unusual activity, making the secrecy of Jackson's movement more fragile than ever. The Coalition is both powerful and meticulous, and Jackson knows that even a small slip could bring destruction upon those they are trying to protect. In the shadows, Jackson begins to gather allies. Using hidden networks and the assistance of sympathizers, he reaches out to other colony leaders and trusted individuals scattered throughout Coalition-controlled space. Meetings are held in dimly lit cargo bays, encrypted messages are exchanged in dead-drop locations, and allies are identified by symbols and codes drawn from Earth's past. Jackson becomes the elusive leader of a budding resistance, a figure whispered about, admired, and feared. Among those he contacts is Aurea Sol, a former Coalition technician turned smuggler who has made a living running supplies to isolated human enclaves. With an extensive knowledge of Coalition infrastructure and access to contraband technology, Aurea becomes Jackson's eyes and ears within the Coalition's operations. Together, they develop an underground network, a patchwork alliance of soldiers, miners, engineers, and civilians, each playing their part in preparing for the larger struggle to come. As the Coalition tightens its grip, Jackson and his allies escalate their actions, organizing raids on miner outposts and sabotaging supply lines. These strikes are small but strategically devastating, carried out with precision and unpredictability, leaving the Coalition scrambling to respond. Each successful mission swells their ranks, as more and more humans rise from the shadows, abandoning their lives of submission to join the rebellion. The Coalition, long complacent in its dominance, now finds itself facing an enemy that is no longer simply hiding, it is actively fighting back. However, trust remains fragile among the human enclaves. Centuries of isolation and suffering have created divisions and distrust, and not all humans believe that an all-out rebellion is worth the risk. Some leaders of the colonies, scarred by brutal Coalition reprisals, see Jackson's efforts as dangerous and reckless, fearing that open defiance will lead to annihilation. But others are emboldened by the prospect of resistance, willing to face any consequence for a chance at freedom. One evening, during a covert meeting held in the hull of a derelict cargo freighter, Jackson addresses a gathering of colony representatives. He speaks of Earth, of the technology he has recovered, of the hope that humans might once again control their fate. His words resonate deeply, stirring something long buried within his listeners. Though some remain hesitant, the majority pledge their loyalty, forging an alliance bound by a common goal: to break the Coalition's chains and reclaim their lost legacy. As Jackson's movement grows, so does the Coalition's awareness of the danger he poses. High-ranking Coalition officials issue directives to capture or eliminate the leader of this insurrection, branding him a rogue threat to interstellar stability. Bounties are placed on the heads of known rebels, and spies infiltrate human communities, searching for any trace of Jackson's network. But the rebellion is no longer just Jackson's mission. It has become a shared purpose, a rekindled fight for dignity and survival. Whispers of rebellion sweep across the galaxy, carried on the hopes of those who have nothing left to lose. What started as a faint spark now burns with fierce intensity, a growing tide that threatens to upend the order imposed by the Coalition. Humanity's uprising has begun. Jackson and his crew decide that the rebellion needs a bold, public victory to rally humanity's scattered enclaves and prove their strength. Tethys Station, a heavily fortified Coalition base on the edge of a key resource-rich asteroid belt, becomes their target. The station is not only a stronghold of Coalition power, but also a notorious prison for human laborers forced to mine valuable minerals. Liberating it would strike a powerful blow against the Coalition, while symbolizing the rebels' determination to fight for freedom. The operation is meticulously planned. Jackson coordinates with his network of allies, recruiting those with specialized skills, former technicians who know coalition defense systems, ex-soldiers who understand the layouts of military bases, and miners with intimate knowledge of Tethys Station's hazardous asteroid surroundings. The risk is undeniable. They are vastly outgunned, and coalition reinforcements could arrive at any moment. But Jackson knows that courage and timing will be their best weapons in this strike. Every member of the assault team understands the stakes, prepared for the dangers that lie ahead. As their fleet approaches Tethys Station, Jackson's team uses asteroids for cover, slipping through the coalition's defensive perimeter with the precision of seasoned guerrilla fighters. The station looms before them, a sprawling fortress of metal and weaponry, its docking bays patrolled by coalition drones. Jackson orders a quick, decisive assault, coordinating with pinpoint timing. Small, cloaked drones disrupt the station's sensors, creating a brief window of confusion. The team maneuvers their captured battleship into position, priming its old but formidable weapons. Then, with a sudden burst of fire, they launch their attack. The coalition is caught off guard, scrambling to respond as explosions ripple across the station's outer defenses. Jackson's team hits the station's primary defense generators first, cutting off power to automated turrets and forcing coalition troops to rely on handheld weapons. Meanwhile, a second wave of rebels breaches the station's docking bays, engaging coalition guards in intense firefights. The hallways echo with the shouts of battle and the clash of gunfire as Jackson's team pushes forward, securing passageways and freeing imprisoned humans as they advance. With each liberated group, their forces grow, as former prisoners pick up weapons and join the fight. Inside the control room, coalition officers frantically try to restore order, but Jackson's chief engineer, Lyra, hacks into the station's systems, overriding key controls and opening secure doors for the rebel forces. The station's commander, a veteran coalition officer, issues a desperate call for reinforcements, but communication lines are jammed, leaving Tethys Station isolated and vulnerable. As the fighting intensifies, the coalition forces regroup and prepare a counter-assault, determined to protect the station at any cost. The rebels are nearly overwhelmed, pinned down by enemy fire in the narrow hallways. With ammunition running low, Jackson and his team prepare to make a final stand, their hopes fading as the coalition troops close in. Yet, just as it seems their attack may fail, they hear a rumbling deep within the station. The miners, familiar with the infrastructure of Tethys Station, have rigged a series of explosive charges throughout key structural points. With a deafening roar, the charges detonate, causing the station to shudder violently. Sections of the structure collapse, cutting off coalition troops and allowing the rebels to push forward. Amid the chaos, Jackson's team reaches the central control hub, where they disable the remaining defenses and declare the station under their control. But their victory is short-lived. Coalition reinforcements, alerted by the distress call, appear on the station's scanners, rapidly closing in. Realizing they cannot hold Tethys Station for long, Jackson gives the order to evacuate, ensuring that as many liberated prisoners as possible can escape with them. They load captured transports with the former miners and wounded fighters, hastily launching ships into the asteroid field, scattering to avoid coalition patrols. As Jackson and his remaining crew prepare to make their escape, he takes one last look at Tethys Station, now a smoldering ruin, its once impregnable defenses shattered. They know that while they couldn't keep the station, the liberation of its prisoners and the audacity of the attack have sent a message across the galaxy. Humanity is no longer content to be subjugated. Jackson's bold raid on Tethys Station becomes a beacon of resistance. Colonies and outposts hear of the siege, of the humans who dared to strike at the coalition, and many begin to consider that rebellion might not be as impossible as they once thought. The coalition, now fully aware of the threat Jackson poses, is determined to hunt him down and crush the uprising before it spreads. but the tide is turning, and the galaxy now knows that humanity is ready to rise. With the daring raid on Tethys Station, Jackson's name becomes legend among humanity's scattered enclaves. His success not only weakens the coalition, but inspires countless others, prompting cells of resistance to form in forgotten corners of space. Yet Jackson knows that sporadic strikes alone won't be enough. They need a force capable of challenging the coalition's fleets if they're to reclaim their freedom. The key to this lies in Earth's ancient warships, rumored to be hidden across the galaxy, hidden caches of firepower waiting to be found. Jackson's beacon, the small device that first led him to the battleship, still holds fragments of data about other locations where Earth's old fleet might be stored. He gathers his closest allies and shares his plan. They will scour the galaxy for these lost vessels, amassing a fleet that could stand against the coalition's dominance. It's an audacious goal, one that requires secrecy, skill, and resilience. Each ship reclaimed from the dust of history will add to their strength, their hope for a future beyond oppression. The first target is a derelict cruiser rumored to be abandoned in a dead star system beyond Coalition territory. This cruiser, if it still exists, was once equipped with powerful electromagnetic cannons, weapons that could disable enemy shields and level the playing field against technologically superior forces. Jackson and his crew pilot their captured battleship through the system's debris field, sensors on high alert for any sign of the cruiser. The crew is tense, knowing that coalition scouts could be lurking nearby. After hours of searching, their scanners finally detect a faint energy reading coming from an asteroid belt. The cruiser, partially buried within an asteroid, emerges from the shadows as they approach. Covered in layers of dust and cosmic disgrace, the ship is a ghostly remnant of a forgotten era, its once proud hull now pitted and scarred by time. Jackson's team boards carefully, unsure of what state they'll find the ship in. Inside, they move through dimly lit corridors, the air thick with the scent of stale metal and age. The control panels are dead, the systems inactive. For a moment, disappointment settles over them, but Jackson refuses to give up. With the help of Lyra, his engineer, they manage to bring the cruiser's main systems online, rerouting power from emergency generators. The ship groans to life, its ancient engines humming faintly, and the electromagnetic cannons show faint signs of functionality. They quickly realize the cruiser will require extensive repairs to be battle-ready, but the weapons are functional enough for a single strike, at least. Using salvaged parts and components, Jackson's team restores basic operational capacity, giving them a formidable addition to their fleet. Encouraged by their success, Jackson sends encrypted messages to other human enclaves, urging any willing and able to seek out Earth's lost vessels, joining the effort to recover pieces of the forgotten fleet. Colonies far and wide respond, sending scouting parties to ancient sites, abandoned battlefields, and derelict spaceports, places once rich with human tech, but long since stripped bare by time and scavengers. Some of these expeditions return empty-handed, while others discover hidden treasures, frigates with advanced maneuvering thrusters, stealth corvettes designed for ambushes, and troop transports once used to deploy Earth's ground forces. Each recovered ship is patched together, tested, and brought into the rebel fleet. Word spreads of the growing armada, of ships returning from the dead, carrying the promise of a rising force ready to confront the coalition. As Jackson's fleet grows, so does the coalition's determination to stamp out this rebellion before it grows beyond their control. Coalition admirals, sensing a threat to their rule, begin deploying more aggressive patrols, hunting down any sign of rebel activity, but they cannot catch them all. Jackson and his allies establish hidden bases, using asteroid fields, dead planets, and abandoned mining outposts as staging grounds. There, the old ships are repaired, refitted, and upgraded as much as resources allow, creating a fleet held together by sheer will and ingenuity. The crew, many of whom have only heard stories of Earth's lost power, trained together, learning the controls of the antiquated ships, adapting to weapons and systems that were considered obsolete in Coalition eyes, but are powerful symbols to those who wield them now. With every vessel added, Jackson's fleet becomes a symbol, a growing embodiment of resistance. His network of allies grows as humans from countless enclaves see the fleet as proof that humanity is ready to fight for its freedom. They know that what lies ahead is a monumental challenge, a battle against an empire that sees them as little more than nuisances to be crushed. In his final address before the next mission, Jackson stands before the gathered fleet, his voice carrying through every ship's comms. He reminds them of Earth's legacy, of the strength humanity once had, and of the power they now hold to reclaim it. The crew, united under a single purpose, listens in silence, their resolve unshakable. The lost fleet, once buried and forgotten, is now on the verge of becoming an army, a force that could shake the stars and challenge the Coalition's reign. As Jackson's fleet gains strength, the Coalition's response turns ruthless. No longer underestimating the rebellion, the Coalition deploys elite strike forces, hunting down suspected allies and intercepting supplies. Human colonies that openly support the rebellion are raided, and countless civilians are forced to watch their homes burned as a warning to others. The message is clear: defiance will come at a heavy cost. Jackson feels the weight of each life lost, each colony that suffers because of his fight. He knows they are paying for his vision, and it drives him to push harder, to bring them closer to victory, no matter the price. In a tense strategy meeting aboard the command deck, his officers and allies debate their options. Some urge caution, suggesting they lay low and build their strength before challenging the Coalition openly. Others, filled with anger and grief, demand immediate retaliation, a strike against Coalition strongholds that would show the galaxy humanity's strength. Jackson, torn between these paths, weighs the growing toll of each decision. He knows that one wrong move could bring disaster upon everyone who's sacrificed for this cause. Against this backdrop, a critical transmission arrives. Uriah Sol, Jackson's trusted spy within the Coalition, sends word of a high-ranking Coalition official en route to a nearby system, overseeing a new base designed to monitor rebel movements. This official's capture could be a turning point, a chance to leverage information, gain intelligence, and prove that the Coalition itself is vulnerable. Yet, this mission will be dangerous, a high-stakes gamble. Jackson chooses to proceed, knowing that the potential reward outweighs the risk. The plan unfolds with precision. Jackson's fleet converges near the coordinates, cloaked in the shadows of a dense asteroid field. As the Coalition vessel enters the sector, Jackson's forces spring into action, surrounding the ship and disabling its engines in a swift strike. Boarding parties breach the hull, sweeping through corridors in search of the target. They encounter heavy resistance from Coalition guards, and fierce firefights erupt, the tight corridors filled with smoke and the deafening roar of weapon fire. After a grueling battle, Jackson's team finally secures the Coalition official, but the cost is high. Several of his closest allies fall in the assault, and many more suffer severe injuries. The sense of victory is tempered by the heavy toll paid. Jackson watches as his surviving crew members carry their fallen comrades back to the ships, their expressions grim and haunted. They all knew this fight would demand sacrifices, but each loss drives the reality deeper, eroding the defiant optimism that once filled the ranks. Jackson interrogates the captured official, hoping to extract information about Coalition strategies and weaknesses. Yet, the official remains cold and unyielding, speaking only to mock Jackson, questioning how much suffering he's willing to inflict on his own people. The words cut deep, forcing Jackson to confront the impact of his choices. This war, born from his dream of reclaiming humanity's legacy, is becoming a relentless struggle with a growing list of casualties. Back aboard his flagship, Jackson gathers his weary crew and addresses them. He speaks not as a leader promising glory, but as one who shares their grief. He acknowledges the sacrifices they've made, the friends they've lost, the pain they all carry. He reminds them of why they fight, not for revenge, not for pride, but for the freedom denied to them and their ancestors. Each loss, he tells them, fuels their purpose, strengthens their resolve, and brings them closer to ending the cycle of oppression that has haunted humanity for generations. As the crew disperses, the mood is somber but resolute. They know that this path will demand everything from them, that freedom will only come through struggle and sacrifice. The coalition will continue to tighten its grip, to lash out in fear of the rising threat. But Jackson and his fleet, battered and scarred, stand undeterred. The cost of defiance is steep, but the thought of surrender is unthinkable. They are all in, bound by their commitment to a cause larger than themselves. The next mission awaits, and Jackson knows that more battles lie ahead, each more dangerous than the last. The rebellion presses forward, their determination fueled by both hope and loss. They are not just fighting for survival, they are fighting for the right to shape their destiny. And though the journey grows darker with each step, Jackson believes that every sacrifice will one day lead them back to the light of freedom. The tides of battle shift in Jackson's favor as the rebellion grows bolder, their victories spreading across the galaxy. With each battle, each liberated outpost, and each reclaimed ship, the coalition's iron grip weakens. Humanity's lost fleet, once forgotten relics hidden in debris fields and asteroid belts, now moves in unison, a force rebuilt from the ashes of Earth's past. Rumors of these ships, symbols of defiance and resilience, echo through the coalition's ranks, sowing fear and doubt among even its most loyal soldiers. This fear, combined with Jackson's unrelenting strikes, begins to crack the coalition's facade of invincibility. The rebellion has now grown beyond isolated cells, transformed into a full-scale uprising. Jackson's network of allies spans countless systems, and humans rally behind him as a symbol of their shared struggle. Even non-human species, long oppressed under coalition rule, begin to take notice, reaching out to Jackson's forces with offers of support. Though these species remain cautious, watching and waiting, they see in the rebellion a rare chance to challenge their oppressors. Jackson's fleet, once a ragtag collection of survivors, now stands poised to topple an empire. Coalition leadership, aware that their control is slipping, holds an emergency summit on their capital planet, Primaxis. The Coalition Council, desperate to maintain order, devises a final brutal strategy. They will draw the rebellion into one decisive battle, a trap meant to crush them, and end the uprising in a single stroke. They leak coordinates to the rebellion, a location near Primaxis, seemingly an exposed supply line, hoping to lure Jackson into a confrontation. Jackson and his advisors review the intelligence, sensing the potential trap, but realizing the opportunity it represents. Victory here could mean an end to the coalition's rule, a chance to liberate humanity and any others suffering under their regime. After careful consideration, Jackson decides to go forward with the plan, knowing that this will be the rebellion's defining moment. The fleet sets course for Primaxis, prepared for a fight that will either break their chains or end their resistance altogether. As they approach the coalition's stronghold, Jackson's fleet is met by a vast armada, far larger than any force they've encountered. The coalition, desperate to defend its authority, has mobilized nearly all its warships, surrounding the system in a wall of firepower. Coalition ships form a blockade, their weapons primed, ready to annihilate the rebels in one final clash. But Jackson's forces, hardened by countless battles and driven by an unyielding resolve, refuse to be intimidated. They know what's at stake, and their loyalty to each other, and to their vision of freedom, binds them as tightly as any armor. The battle erupts in a storm of energy blasts and explosions. Jackson's fleet uses hit-and-run tactics, striking the coalition's flanks and pulling back, exploiting every weakness they've learned over years of combat. Coalition ships, though powerful, lack the adaptability and spirit that fuels the rebels. Amid the chaos, Jackson's flagship leads the charge, piercing through enemy lines and inspiring the fleet to press forward, no matter the cost. Despite heavy casualties, the rebellion pushes deeper into coalition defenses, reaching Primaxis orbit. Coalition commanders, rattled by the rebels' resilience, struggle to coordinate their forces. On the ground, civilians watch in awe as explosions light up the skies. Many have lived their entire lives under the coalition's oppressive rule. Seeing these symbols of rebellion gives them hope for the first time. A few brave souls even rise up, sabotaging ground defenses and spreading panic throughout the capital. The coalition's fall begins to accelerate as internal divisions erupt. Some commanders, shaken by the rebellion's advance, abandon their posts, while others defect, unwilling to continue fighting for a regime that has betrayed its own ideals. The carefully constructed hierarchy that once controlled the galaxy collapses from within, and Jackson seizes the moment. He issues a call to coalition soldiers, urging them to lay down their arms and join the fight for a new future, one where they're not pawns in the hands of corrupt rulers. One by one, coalition ships surrender or join the rebels, and the tide turns irreversibly. Jackson's fleet converges on the coalition's central command, a fortified station orbiting Primaxis, where the council members watch in terror as their empire crumbles before them. Desperate, they attempt to escape, but Jackson's forces surround the station, cutting off any route for retreat. The council, realizing that they've lost, sends a final transmission, pleading for mercy, offering peace if Jackson calls off the assault. But Jackson knows that promises made in fear are meaningless. He responds with a single directive: surrender unconditionally or face the consequences. The council has no choice. They order all remaining forces to stand down, and the battle, once raging fiercely, fades into silence. As Jackson's fleet settles over Primaxis, the rebellion stands victorious. The coalition, broken and scattered, can no longer enforce its rule, and for the first time in generations, humanity and its allies taste freedom. The cost of this victory is immense, but the coalition's fall marks the dawn of a new era, an era where humanity, once subjugated and divided, has reclaimed its power to decide its own destiny. The fall of the coalition is swift, but its aftermath is a complex web of rebuilding, healing, and reshaping a galaxy that has known nothing but oppression for centuries. Jackson stands on the bridge of his flagship, looking out over the still-burning capital of Primaxis. The rebellion's victory is undeniable, but the weight of what they've accomplished weighs heavily on him. The coalition's vast network of power structures has crumbled, but the void they've left behind is filled with uncertainty. A galaxy that once operated under the iron fist of a singular force now faces the challenge of self-determination, a daunting prospect after generations of subjugation. Humanity and its allies, now freed from the coalition's grip, stand at the crossroads of their future. Jackson understands that while the chains have been broken, the work of true liberation has only just begun. The rebel fleet, once fragmented and driven by a singular goal, survival, now has the monumental task of unifying the scattered colonies, forging a new future from the ashes of the old. Different factions, each with their own vision of what the galaxy should become, are already vying for influence. The risk of another war looms as old alliances shift and new power struggles erupt. In the days following the coalition's fall, Jackson calls a summit of representatives from the liberated colonies. The plant-wide broadcasts that follow are a symbol of the galaxy's unity, but the tension is palpable. The summit takes place in the heart of the former coalition capital, now a place of liberation. Once a symbol of tyranny, Primaxis is reborn as the site of humanity's new beginning. The streets, once filled with the sounds of forced labor and military patrols, now echo with the voices of free citizens, their faces filled with hope for a future where they can finally chart their own course. Jackson, standing at the podium, addresses the galaxy for the first time as a leader of a unified movement. His voice, though steady, carries the weight of every battle, every loss, every sacrifice that has led to this moment. He speaks of rebuilding, of healing the scars left by the Coalition's reign, and of the responsibility that now falls on each and every person to create a galaxy where freedom and peace can flourish. He reminds the people of the cost of their newfound liberty, urging them to honor the sacrifices made by those who fought and died for this cause. As the summit progresses, Jackson listens to the voices of those who have fought beside him, the miners, soldiers, engineers, and civilians who have shared this struggle. Each speaker brings a different vision for the future, but all agree on one core principle: the galaxy will never return to the old ways of oppression. The rebellion has proven that when humanity and its allies unite, no force is too powerful to defeat. The question now is how they will ensure that the peace they fought for is not lost to greed, ambition, or fear. Over the coming months, Jackson works tirelessly with his fellow leaders to create a new governing system, one that promotes equality, collaboration, and mutual respect among the newly liberated worlds. They establish councils of representatives, ensuring that no single faction or species will dominate the others. Jackson steps aside from formal leadership, knowing that the galaxy must be governed by the people, not by one man or group. He becomes a figurehead, a symbol of unity, while the real work of governance begins. Despite the challenges ahead, the mood is hopeful. The first ships of the new fleet, built with the help of those who had once been slaves to the Coalition, are launched, symbolizing a future of exploration and peace rather than conquest and subjugation. Former enemies begin to work together, sharing resources and knowledge to rebuild the shattered worlds left in the wake of the rebellion's war. Humanity, once on the brink of extinction under the Coalition's heel, now stands as the leader of a new, united galaxy, a galaxy where the promise of freedom is not just a dream, but a reality. As Jackson watches the ships leave the atmosphere of Primaxis, he feels a sense of peace he's never known. The war is over, but the real work is just beginning. In the distance, the first rays of the new dawn shine across the vast expanse of space. The galaxy, once a place of darkness and despair, now glows with the light of hope. The rising dawn is not just the start of a new day, it is the beginning of a new era for all sentient beings, one where they can choose their own future. And in that future, Jackson knows, humanity will never again be slaves to anyone. The galaxy is theirs to shape.